Alright, so right now I've got my wife's hunting rifle and I'm making sure that it has maintained zero, even though it's been like, you know, it's traveled in my truck a lot and been bumped around a lot and gone in and out of gun safe and stuff like that. I haven't been gentle with it like most of my guns. So I'm going to make sure that it maintains zero. I'm also going to be tracking my cold bore, clean bore shot out of this gun using the same lot and type of ammunition, hornady 123 grain SST. And after I do that, I'm going to get some velocities, and then I'm going to talk about what I do with that information. Alright, so first is going to be my cold bore, clean bore shot. I'm going to track it on one target separate from the other target. Alright, now I'm going to shoot at another target. Alright. Sometimes a barrel takes a few shots before it's what's the word I'm looking for? Seasoned properly. So that group looks like ass. I'm gonna go ahead and call that 2 inches or so. But it's still information that I can use, and I'm going to. So I'm going to shoot a couple more groups, see if those tighten up, and then I'm going to test something. Stand by. Alright, so here's what happened. And I mean, I'm not cherry picking any groups or anything like that. These are clearly not cherry picked. Alright, so that was my cold bore, clean bore shot out of this gun. This was my point of aim. That was my point of impact. Then I shot another group. Like I said before, my wife shoots this gun a lot better than I do. The next group that I shot was up here. I actually couldn't even see it. The reason I use a white background is so I can see it from 100 yards. I couldn't see it. So anyway, so I shot these three, and I was 3 or 2 or whatever, and one of them went right here, making a 1.5 inch group. And then the next group that I shot were these three, and it was 2 1/4. Then I went down here and shot this group, which is 1.25, and then down here 1.75. So you can see that's the, you know, the order that I shot these groups in or whatever. Basically, what I'm trying to do is make sure that with this, you know, rifle and ammunition combination, even on a bad day, which is me shooting it, not when my wife's shooting it, then my wife will be capable of killing a deer humanely with it. So now I'm going to do another test. Alright, so right now I've got the magneto speed on the gun so that I can track my velocity, or her velocity. Still using the same ammo. Two, 4, 4, 7. Two, 4, 8, 3. 2, 4, 9, 0. 2, 5, 0, 1. 2, 4, 9, 2. right, so my data, my average, 2482. High, 2501. That was shot number 5. So it says. That's not right. Low is 2447. Okay, standard deviation 20. Extreme spread 54. Now, these are real numbers. I know, like whenever you hand load and shit, you can get a lot better numbers than that and stuff like that, but this is factory ammunition out of a 20-inch barrel. So these are, you know, the real numbers that I'm getting off of this gun. So these are the numbers that I'm going to use. Whenever I plug in my data for ballistic calculations, I usually use 10 rounds, but I've actually got about the same numbers from a previous 5 rounds that I've chronoed through this gun. I just figured I would do it for you guys this time. So I'm actually going to take those numbers plus these numbers and see if I'm close with my average. And if I am, then my average is what I'm going to use for my firing solution. All right, so out there at 200 yards is the target. And this is what I wanted to test out. This is my pig saddle and tripod, and made by Shadowtech. I'm going to attempt to make a couple of shots at 200 yards from sitting off the back of my truck with the tripod. So I'm here at 200 yards trying to get in an uncomfortable position, which I'm in. And I'm going to try to shoot off of this tripod at 200 yards. Given the information that I have right now, it would be about a 1/2 mil of bullet drop if my point of aim, point of impact was correct at 100. So I'm going to give it a half. The wind is dead right now. Alright. Uncomfortable position. Y'all know how much I like those. Alright, I'm going to give it a center hold. See, I've never used one of these before. I'm trying to figure out, probably could have done this off camera a little bit, but it's kind of hard to see a .264 caliber hole at 200 yards with a fixed 10 power scope, but if I am not mistaken, I just center punched that paper. All right, so now what I'm going to do is get in another on another level and fire another shot from another level and try to, you know, change my body up a little bit again. I'm damn near certain I just center punched the paper. So whenever we go down range, if there's one dead center, that was this first shot right here with a 1/2 mil dialed into the scope from this awkward ass position. All right, so I'm gonna get into, I'm gonna change levels now. All right, so level 2 is going to be me standing, you know, perfectly straight and erect, but I am standing in the back of my truck. There's a bunch of dip spit bottles and shit like that here crunching under my feet. So it's kind of an unstable way to stand, an unstable way to shoot, an uncomfortable way to shoot. I'm going to aim at the same place on the paper, and I'm going to send one. this might be my new favorite thing. Yeah, this might be my new favorite thing in the world right here. The shadowtech hog saddle. This thing's fucking dope. I'm pretty sure I just put another round in the center of that paper, about an inch away from the former shot or less. So I'm gonna change levels again. So right now I'm probably in the most common position I can imagine a hunter being in when using this. I'm sitting in a chair, like a regular ass lawn chair. Maybe if I was in like a hunting blind or some kind of shit like that. And then I've got the tripod set up in front of me, and my rifle target's still at 200. I haven't, gone down range to check or anything like that. But from what I can see in the scope, I'm pretty sure I center punched it twice. So what I'm gonna do right now is shoot it from the most common position or level that I imagine a hunter would be using this from. Looks like I'm about maybe 2 inches low, which, I mean, that's probably me being, not super duper stable and just kind of taking what I could get on that one. If I had, like, I didn't want to use it, but if I tucked a pack under my arm or a jacket or something under my arm, then I'd be a lot more stable. But I was just trying to go for bone structure. In fact, I bet if I sent another shot, it would be a hell of a lot better. Anyway, all right, so that's shot number 3 at 200 yards from the shadowtech hog saddle. All right, I'm gonna go again from another level. All right, the last level or position that I wanted to try this from is another one I could see a lot of hunters using this at, and that's the seated position. I'm sitting Indian style. I've got my body kind of not quite bladed the target at about a 45-degree angle with the target, so that I can use my elbows inside of the pockets of my knees. So I can put my elbows here to get more support out of my structure. And then also I have the rifle inside of the tripod, and I'm going to attempt my fourth and final shot at 200 yards with the shadowtech hog saddle. Looks to be about 2 inches to the right and maybe an inch high of where I was aiming. So we're gonna go down range and look at it and see how that target looks. Also, don't forget after you make a shot at distance to return your turret back to 0. Results from 200 yards. Shot 1, shot 2, shot 3, and shot 4. I guess I can't see .264 caliber holes at 200 yards with a fixed 10 power. That's good glass, that SWFA. All right, so I'm wrapping it up. What I've decided to do is, since I messed with my elevation knob after that last shot, I'll just want to be absolutely certain that the 0 is correct before I leave today, because my wife is most likely going to be hunting with this gun this weekend. Hopefully she'll kill her first deer. And so I'm going to shoot a couple of groups real quick before I leave at 100 yards. Now that the barrel's cooled off and everything, so. Those last two look real good. That first one didn't. I'm also like letting the barrel warm up a little bit whenever I shoot these groups right here, just to see how much change I get out of it. Because whenever your barrel and chamber and everything heats up, you can have a harmonic change, which causes a point of impact shift. And also, some people don't believe in a cold bore, clean bore shot. They believe more in a cold shooter. But in my experience, it is important to have a cold bore, clean bore shot tracked. She's not going to shoot this gun cold and clean whenever she takes it hunting, so that's a thing. And also, most people won't put this level of time, energy, and effort into making sure everything is right before they try to kill an animal. But for me, it's kind of a big deal taking a life, you know. Seems like the first one is getting away from me every time. Maybe there's some scientific reason behind that, like maybe the amount of time it's sitting in the chamber is causing it to heat up enough to cause it to be sporadic. Normally, whenever I'm checking muzzle velocities, I make sure to fire the rounds fast, and I have somebody else writing down the numbers for me so that the ammunition doesn't have time to heat up inside of your chamber. I've talked about that before, about having a hot chamber and running ammo through your gun on a hot chamber, and how that's inconsistent, in my opinion, because then your powder is burning faster because it's hotter. All right, last three, and then we'll go down there and check it out. You'll see that these are definitely no cherry pick groups, but they're adequate, and they're about on par with how I perform with this rifle. My wife, like I said, performs much better than me with this weapon. All right. And that's the group of the day right there. All right, let's go check that out. I'm packing it up. All right, so here they are, the last three groups of the day. So very first shot, like I said, I don't shoot this gun well. It's me, it's not the gun. And then those two were on the paster. The next three were here and there. And the last three were right there. So 1, 2, and 3, they're just right there around it. So I'd say that's good for hunting, for deer hunting. We'll talk more about it. All right, so a lot of you know that I can be kind of long-winded, and that's because I'm passionate about this. This is a subject that just, like I like to teach it, and I hope that the information that I put out is helpful for somebody. Like I'm trying to help people, that's anyway. So let's talk about the information that I have now, what I know and what I can do with that information. So I know that my height over bore for that SCOTUS is 2.71 inches. I know this because I've measured it. I measured it with a pair of calipers. I know that my scope tracking error is 0%, and I know that because I tested it, reference my scope tracking video. I know that my muzzle velocity for the set of shots that I did today was 2482, and my former test cluster was 2480. So like right there at the same, I had the same average pretty much. So I'm using 2482. I could have split it and done 2481. I mean, it's not that important for the distances that I'm talking about here. I know that the ballistic coefficient advertised for the projectiles that I'm using is a 0.51, and that is the G1 ballistic coefficient. I know because it's a boat tail bullet, you're not supposed to use G1, you're supposed to use G7, but it'll be close enough for my application. I know that my zero distance is 100 yards. I know that where I'm going to be shooting it, or my wife is going to be shooting it, is generally flat, and that's important to know because whenever you're shooting at different angles, you need to account for that. It's an altitude change. There's a cosine. Anyway, that's another video. I know the precision of the rifle, ammunition, and shooter that's going to be using it. So my wife shoots that gun about 1 MOA to 1 1/4. Me, I shoot it about 1.5. Typically, maybe a little bit worse because I suck with that gun. Anyway, so I know that the rifle, ammunition, and shooter is consistently capable of 1 to 1 1/4 with that gun. That's my wife. I know what ranging capabilities we have. We have a laser rangefinder, and I know that the laser rangefinder is precise because I've tested it. I've actually measured it with a tape measure. All right, so I want to talk about energy for just a second. When I'm hunting deer, specifically like deer in the Carolinas, you usually don't see like enormous deer like you do in like West Virginia, and stuff like that. I think that an acceptable amount of energy is 800 foot-pounds. Some people say you absolutely can't go below 1,000. I say whenever I'm hunting in West Virginia, yeah, 1,000 is absolutely the number that I won't go below. But in North and South Carolina, 800 is the number that I use. There are a lot of people that use a lot lower numbers and they don't even realize it. I promise you, people aren't putting the kind of time, energy, and effort into it that I am. So anyway, 800 foot-pounds. The 6.5 Grendel, with that ballistic coefficient, that projectile weight, and that muzzle velocity, I achieved that at about 800 foot-pounds at about 475 yards. So that to me says that I will only use that gun at 475 yards and in. I will not try to dispatch an animal beyond that distance because I believe that to be unethical. Fight me, I don't care. Bullet performance. So there's a lot of different numbers about the what a bullet will do terminally whenever it interacts with soft tissue and also bone and other shit like that. So the terminal performance, they say not to go below 1,500 feet per second. Well, that projectile doesn't reach that until it gets like 700 yards or some shit like that. So I'm well within that bullet speed. And no, I'm not talking about the transonic zone or anything like that. That's Mach 1.2, and it is above that at that distance. So that's not what we're talking about, and that's for another video. All right, so the other thing that you need to know is your wind reading capability. I know my wind reading capability is, plus or minus 2 or 3. And the reason that I know that is because I've walked around with a wind meter. I do it just kind of as a check on learning for myself. I walk around with a wind meter and I guess the wind, and then I look at the wind meter and figure out, you know, what it is. So with all of this information, I know that with that rifle ammunition and shooter combination on flat ground, in the conditions of, you know, North and South Carolina, my wife can use that to kill a deer about 300 to 400 yards away, for me to be comfortable with it. Anyway, that's I know that's a lot more information than most people will put into their hunting. You know, most people will go, they won't even, you know, test the performance of their ammunition or anything like that. They don't know what sectional density is or anything like that. They're just going to go straight out and buy some Tula and run it through their gun, zero it at 100 yards and say, good enough. And I mean, that might be successful for them, but I'm talking about, you know, like what my ethics say is okay. Anyway, I hope this video was helpful for somebody. If I helped one person, then the time that I put into it was worth it. It's getting dark. Anyway, hey, C494, out.